What up, everybody? Mike D checking in here. I wanted to talk about the situation with Jay Z, Caesar's Palace, and Times Square and the casino. Um, I thought it was really interesting. For people who don't know, Jay Z Rock Nation, Caesar's Palace, and SL Green Realty Corporation, they were working to get a casino built in Times Square in New York City, in the heart of New York City, and it got denied. It got denied 4-2, and everybody's in an uproar about it. And I was surprised, honestly. I just knew that it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to be able to set up shop there, and I was, looking forward to seeing what that would bring to Times Square, New York City, and all of those things. And there were so many community initiatives around it. And then it was denied. And then I looked into it a lot more, and the denial made a lot of sense. I came across this Deadline article where they're talking about it, and they're talking about the decision and why things kind of went the way it did. The Broadway community has a lot to do with it, and I do understand some of the things that the Broadway community brought up. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it as well and what your opinion is on it. But let me go through this article real fast. The Deadline article is Times Square Casino backed by Caesar's Palace and Jay Z halted by advisory committee. So, update with the statement from Caesar's Palace and Times Square. So, this is an updated article. Glad I waited to talk about this so we could get a little bit more information. Says the proposal to build a casino in Times Square has been denied by the Community Advisory Committee, whose approval was needed for the bid to proceed through the state's licensing process. In a 4-2 vote, the bid submitted by SL Green Realty, Caesars Entertainment, and the Jay-Z founded Rock Nation and Live Nation was rejected by the committee. A vote that would seem to be, a vote that would seem to put the end to the proposal. The casino would have to build at 1515 Broadway, where it would have shared a space in the Miscoff Theater, home of Broadway's The Lion King and Viacom. So they would have had to share a building there. Sure, that was going to be an issue as well. Corporate entities and the theater community as well call that home. And there would have been a lot of extra foot traffic in that area that didn't have anything to do with what they had going on. Anyway, it says the proposal has divided many with stakes in the Broadway industry for months. Just this week, in the days leading up to today's vote, signs and marquees on the Broadway offered opposing stances. I saw that in the news. Leading the campaign against the casino was the Broadway League, the association for theater owners and producers, the Sherber Organization, IATSE, and others who have argued that the casino would have harmful impact on the Broadway theater industry and the neighborhood itself. Huh. That's interesting. I'll go further and we can kind of unpack that a little bit. In addition to the league and the Sherber organization, the No Times Square Casino Coalition, including more than 35 organizations, including ITSE, the largest union on the Broadway, representing 7 locals and 168,000 workers um, across North America, excuse me. The United Federation of Teachers Social Service provides like the Ali Forney Center and Broadway Cares / Equity Fights AIDS, as well as residents groups like the Hell's Kitchens Neighborhoods Association and the West Side Neighborhood Alliance. These are a lot of organizations that were against this. A whole lot. And we got to ask ourselves why, right? I mean, were their intentions pure on why they opposed it, or were they on some BS? Let's see. In a statement today, Jason Lakes, president of the Broadway League and member of the No Times Square Casino Coalition, said this was a vote to protect the magic of Broadway. For the 100,000 New Yorkers who depend on it for their livelihood and for the tens of millions who come from around the world to experience it. The casino can go anywhere, but Broadway only lives here. We are so filled with gratitude that the committee members and the local elect elected officials, excuse me, State Senator Liz Kruger, Assembly Member Tony Simon, and brought President Mark Levy and Council Member Eric Botcher, who looked at the facts, listened to the residents, and stood up for this neighborhood and the theater community. Now, I will say this: it's very difficult to come in a community that is that affluent and is that established and go against what they actually want, um, just for your individual purposes, and say that you're going to give them jobs and monies with money, excuse me, with the casino and opportunities. Like Broadway, from what I see, it looks like Broadway chose culture over money. And for people who know, look, I went to a performing arts high school or a magnet school. Not for that. I just happened to be in the district, and I ain't trying to sound hard or whatever. I wasn't a performing arts student per se. I was in band, but my high school was a magnet performing arts school. So I know how important those institutions are. And Broadway is the top of the top. And where he said, a casino can go anywhere, but Broadway only lives here, that's a strong statement. And that's something that's hard to refute. If you have anything that's going to compromise what they built in Broadway over centuries, if we're being honest, it's it's probably going to get vetoed. And my question is, even with that fact that a casino can go anywhere and them knowing how difficult this was going to be, why did they choose? Why were they so hell bent on it being Times Square? Downtown Brooklyn's thriving, and there's so many places that this could go. But when you know you're gonna have to have a fight with the Broadway community, the theater community, the Hell's Kitchen community, and everyone who is involved in that. I mean, we named off like 30 different organizations, and they're gonna get global support for this. Why have that fight if you're not going to have the community in your favor? You need to win over Broadway. And it's funny, when I read this initially, I'm like, it's a hard knock life, man. And it's not funny because I don't want to see J Rock Nation or anybody fail. But I do think that there is irony in the fact that a pivotal point in Jay-Z's career had a lot to do with Broadway when it came to Annie and it came to Hard Knock Life. And then we come to this point and we come back around when this is about the arts and about preserving Broadway culture. And, that's what the people who were there saying. And they feel that a casino would hurt that. And I'm sure these concerns were brought up beforehand. It makes you feel like this is why Jay pulled up at the Tonys a couple years back. But again, if you know these are going to be concerns and you know this is going to be their stance, why not try to do a casino in Brooklyn instead? I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. And maybe when Caesar's Palace in their statement in this article, maybe we'll get that. All right, but it says, in its own statement, Caesar's Palace Times Square said, "We're disappointed about today's decision and process. Caesar's Palace Times Square was a visionary. I'm sorry. Caesar's Palace Times Square was a visionary proposal that aimed to address long-standing challenges through meaningful private investment. The project, the developers continued, would have enhanced public safety, reduced congestion, and supported the economic vitality of hundreds of local businesses, from hotels and restaurants to theaters, retail establishments. It also included commitments to community health, emergency services, art access, and underserved groups, and an exclusive decision making for local residents. Most importantly, it would have created thousands of stable union jobs and brought diversity and inclusivity to both gaming ownership and Broadway." Whew. Okay. It's a lot to unpack in that statement. Um, I don't know how they're going to. I don't know how you can actually prove that it would enhance public safety and reduce congestion. I don't know how bringing Caesar's Palace um casino to Times Square is gonna reduce congestion. I don't see how. I mean, as a person who's been to New York many, many times, Times Square is one of the busiest places I've ever experienced in life. I don't understand how adding a casino is going to reduce that congestion. And why would you even want it to reduce congestion? Because you're building such a huge establishments and such a huge business. Don't you want more foot traffic? Because what you're doing is you're saying that it's going to add to the economic vitality of businesses, hotels, restaurants, and theaters, and established in retail, if you will. But you're saying it's going to reduce congestion. I don't understand how that works. Um, Commitment to community health, emergency services, art access, underserved groups. Um, I mean, how do I say this? I don't understand how. I don't know. It needs to be outlined a little bit more of how that's going to be able to do that for that specific community. And what community are we talking about specifically? Where are the borders? We're talking about Hell's Kitchen. Is Hell's Kitchen made up of so many underserved individuals in the underserved community? We're talking about Times Square here. Um where do these borders stop? And maybe my New York people out there can speak to this because I haven't been to New York in a minute. Try to go in the next couple of months. But is Hell's Kitchen one of the most in need communities for an initiative like this in New York? I mean, I don't know. It's just a question I'm asking, and of course, the jobs would help overall. I mean, that's a huge opportunity in that light. But okay, let me continue on. It says, read the entire statement below. If the proposal had been approved today, it would have submitted to the state's gaming facilities location board for consideration in the granting of three possible casino licenses expected to be awarded this year. Hmm. A proposal for a casino in Manhattan's Hudson Yard also has been rejected. That's not getting a lot of publicity. We got to know why that is, too. After the committee's vote today, Mark Holliday, chairman and chief executive officer of SL Green Realty Corporation, condemned the decision, telling the committee what you did today was despicable. It's the despicable display of cowardice, lack of leadership, lack of consideration for all people who would have benefited from this proposal. Oh, he's heated. Y'all probably seen the viral clip out there. Um, Actors Equity, as well as Musician Union Local 802, have been a proponent of the project, which they say would have created jobs and increased safety in the neighborhood. Hmm. So they were on board with it. The entire statement by Caesar's Palace Times Square follows. We are disappointed by today's decision and process. Caesar's Palace Times Square was a visionary proposal that aimed to address longstanding challenges through meaningful private investment. The project would have enhanced public safety, reduced congestion, and supported the economic vitality of hundreds of local businesses, from hotels and restaurants to theaters and retail establishments. It also included commitments to community health, emergency services, art access for underserved groups, and inclusive, decision making for local residents. Most importantly, it would have created thousands of stable union jobs and brought diversity and inclusivity to both gaming ownership and Broadway. Now, we talk about the community. I wonder if that community would have voted in favor of this, um, as opposed to rejecting it like the committee did. I mean, I just wonder if this was on the ballot for the people in that community to vote for, would they have voted for it? We are proud to work. I'm sorry, we are proud of the work that we've done over the past 5 years and grateful to the hundreds of organizations, businesses, Broadway artists, labor unions, and residents who supported this effort. This courage and commitment to a better future for Times Square has been inspiring. Okay. While we disagree with the outcome of the process, we remain committed to advocating for positive change in the city we love. I love to hear that. Building strong relationships with the community that is eager for progress. And we hope that those who oppose the project, both in the public and private sector, will now bring the same energy and resources to solve the very real challenges facing Times Square. Okay, okay, look at them. They talking big stuff now, man. I want to know what the actual challenges are, and who are facing these challenges in Times Square. And it sounds like they're putting the ball in Broadway's court. The people who rejected this proposal to do some of the things that they um, were proposing that they were going to do for the community with this casino. This can be a good thing. Um, this can shine a light on the fact that, people in this community have been neglected and haven't been granted opportunities because let's be real. I mean, is as long standing as Broadway is, it can be viewed as an elitist type of society or group, if you will, even though it is for the public and it is for the arts and it's something for young artists to reach for and achieve. But I mean, people can say that about the Grammys, right? In the music industry. So those things can be spread all around. But the challenge of them to do for the community that they're in, I think is really interesting. But again, we got to I wish they would have broken down some of the challenges that the community faces and who is getting neglected specifically, and what specifically is going to be done to address those challenges. I see a lot of people out here on social media, if you will, they feel that Jay-Z is playing, or I don't even want to say Jay-Z, everybody involved here, but Jay-Z's the face of this. And Jay-Z's the only reason why I'm talking about this on a hip hop channel, right? But many people feel that Jay-Z and anybody who's doing business with him like to play the culture game when it comes to anything being implemented or something that he is trying to launch or put out there. I mean, it's kind of like Title all over again, right? This is about the community of artists, but you know, it turned into something else when it sold. I guess someone could view it in that way, but with this, it feels that maybe there is a real underserved community out there, but you can't help but think, even when you're playing Monopoly, Times Square is really, really high on the board. And I'm sure that the same could be done in Brooklyn and done on a very high level and serve a community that is underserved as well. So one would feel that this was more about being in competition with Broadway and getting the biggest piece of real estate and make the biggest move possible, more so than it was about enhancing and enriching the community. I don't know where they go from here on this. Hopefully, they don't stop, and hopefully there's another plan or proposal for another part of New York. But what I hope as well is um that the Broadway community address some of the these what's the word I'm looking for? Address some of the issues that are going on in the community and these underserved individuals who are disheartened in that Times Square community. But let me know what you guys think about this. And, I would love to hear from people who are from New York or in New York and what your thoughts are on the casino being rejected. Was the right decision made? Were they, was this a despicable act? Was this lashing out at hip hop, or was this, something that was justified? Hit like and subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.